let's talk more about Loosh and that sort of thing. My idea was or is that there is no Loosh harvesting. We were sent here to experience suffrage and separation from God. And while you can feel close to God at times, it's not as though I can see him or go to his throne. And while I can have direct communication, we often think we have prayers that are unanswered. And the whole point of this is to experience suffrage. That's the only conclusion I can come to. A lot of people ask why children die or there are diseases in the world, and I think a lot of times we choose our own form of suffrage, or what some people would consider the loosh, or what causes the loosh, or that sort of thing. The addict chose to put the needle in their arm. You get a disease. A lot of times diseases are by our own making, through our diet, our just the choices that we make. Maybe sexually transmitted disease, those are all sin born, gluttonous, that sort of thing. And then the next question is, why are we prone to sin? Why was there something put in the garden that we couldn't have, that Adam couldn't have? And I heard something recently talking about, even though Eve was the first one to take a bite of the apple, it was Adam's fault, or his responsibility, to make sure that she didn't partake in that. Maybe he didn't communicate it to her, because it talks about, apparently, and I need to go back and read it, apparently that God gave the commandment to Adam and not Eve. I don't know. I'll go back and check that out. And maybe he didn't communicate that well enough to her. I don't know. I've heard other things saying that the original sin wasn't a fruit. It was they had sex with Satan, and all those things are plausible. That's something I'd leave on the table. But I don't know. Regardless of what the sin was, it was going against God's will. And that's ultimately what sin is when you go against the natural order that God has set up in this realm, or God's will. But as far as the Loosh thing, I just don't feel that I understand why people come to that conclusion, but I just don't feel that answers the questions. And then some of the Loosh people also talk about going, or being tricked to come back here as part of a prison planet. And if anything, I think we almost chose to come here. And for a while I had a problem with if this is if this realm is about learning, why did we get the memory wipe from understanding what we were before we came here? Well, if you know that you were a powerful being and that this was a test, would it really be a test? If I knew going into the Super Bowl as a quarterback or whatever player that every pass I threw was going to be caught, would that really be a test of my abilities? I don't think so. So coming here, we had to have a memory wipe. We had to have doubt. We have to have doubt. It's all part of the test. And is the test accepting God? Yes, in some form or fashion, coming to that realization, you know, accepting Jesus' salvation. Yes, absolutely. I think there's more to it than that sometimes. I don't believe in reincarnation. Uh, some I have friends that do believe in reincarnation, and I have a friend that's taken some shaman classes to learn how to be a shaman. He likes to, or wants to be able to help people with psychedelic mushroom therapy. I have not participated in psychedelics. I have reservations about that. But he wants to be able to help people through that, and I don't see a problem with that. That's just not for me. And him and his wife both think that they've been reincarnated. Wonderful people. I really enjoy their friendship and their company. And I'm not going to, to their face tell them, well, you're stupid. That's where they're at. But she believes that she was some sort of noble person or princess or something in a past life. And I'm always amazed at how many people that believe that they've been reincarnated think that they came from royalty or somebody of importance. They don't ever remember being a starving child in India or whatever. But I think the point I wanted to make in this video is sometimes I think we choose our suffrage knowingly or unknowingly for that loosh harvesting, right? The loosh. Think about the rich child that doesn't ever have to worry about the bills. The power is never going to be turned off. The rent's always going to be paid. And they never have to worry about anything. Well, then they end up going down this road of, I don't know, either they're like an adventure junkie, which in a way is cheating death. You're putting yourself out there to be harmed, and you're cheating death. Mountain climbing, skydiving, whatever. Look at, some of the things that Travis Pastrana does, and which I enjoy his content. Let me continue. My camera turned off accidentally. So back to the rich child that has everything handed to him, and they will often become adrenaline junkie or an addict. What are they searching for? Why go through those trials and tribulations? I think it's part of the human experience. It's part of why we were here. The human experience is suffrage, being separated from God. And without suffrage, would we even turn to God? Would we pray? There's an old Twilight Zone episode, and from the original Twilight black and white series, where there's a bank robber had robbed a bank and he's running away, and as he's running away climbing a fence, the police shoot him, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it today. And he dies. He wakes up, he's in a penthouse, and his guardian angel's there, and he's like, oh, you're dead. And he's like, but I get to live here. And he's like, yes. It's like above a casino. The guy's a gambler. He likes to gamble. He goes down, and every throw of the dice he wins. Every spin of the roulette wheel he wins. Every pull of the slot machine he wins. He has his choice of all the women. Everything he wants. He never loses. And as time goes on, he becomes bored with it. And he asks his guardian angel, he says, this is pretty boring. Maybe I want to try the other place. I don't like it here. And his guardian angel says, what other place? He goes, well, hell. And he says, what makes you think you're not in hell? You know, so is that some kind of truth drop? I wonder. You know, I mean, what? So if we went straight to heaven, God created us and we're in paradise, and we've never experienced suffrage, gone through the sacrifices, would we really appreciate heaven? Think about any great sport movie you've ever seen. You know, the underdog trains and goes through all the trial and tribulation and then wins in the end. Would it have been as glorious without the trial and tribulation? No, it wouldn't. Would we enjoy heaven without the trial and tribulation? Probably not. So this is kind of my thought today. That's why we're here. It's not Loosh harvesting for the Anunnaki or the Archons or whatever. It's to experience separation from God. It's to experience the struggle. And sometimes the struggle seems like more than we can handle. And maybe it is, because we'll ultimately die. That's a struggle we couldn't handle, right? We die. So, that's my thoughts on it today. Have some other videos coming. We'll talk more about it. Thanks for tuning in.